Good evening to everyone. Happy Thursday, or should I say happy Friday Eve for all of us that look forward to Fridays. For some of us who are entrepreneurs, it doesn't make a difference. It's the same hustle. But thank you for joining us tonight. We really have been looking forward to this evening and the build up tonight and hearing the conversation between these amazing panelists as we talk about projects and project management and the importance of project management. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our panelists to you with formal introductions. And seeing that we have one gentleman on the panel, I am going to introduce him first. How's about that? It's always ladies first, isn't it? So we're going to turn that around. Just before I do, I will open in a word of prayer. So let us bow our heads, please. Dear God, we give you honor and reverence this evening. We thank you, God, for life, for protection, for knowledge, and for wisdom. We thank you for this evening, and we thank you that you are here. We thank you that you will illuminate our hearts and our minds as we gather, as we collaborate, as we learn from each other, that you will continue to cause us to grow and advance, not only personally, but collectively in this community, but also as project managers in our various arenas. For this, we give you thanks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, John Michael Clark. And he is the Bahamas' most renowned and accomplished project manager. He is a chartered fellow, project manager, professor, and arbitrator. His work can be seen on every major island in the country, and through his leadership, he has developed an impressive project management portfolio and has led Veritas Consultants Limited to a point where its participation in projects is known to positively impact the built environment in the country. He has worked with a vast number of contractors in the country and is highly respected among them. He served as the owner representative with Reese Engineering for the Airport Gateway Road project, a $71 million road improvement project, as well as the quantity surveyor for the critical care block expansion at the Princess Margaret Hospital, a $52 million construction project. His professional certifications include Project Management Professional, Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, Chartered Quantity Surveyor Fellow, Canadian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, Professional Quantity Surveyor, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, member, Bahamas Society of Engineers member. Over the past 30 years in the built environment, John Michael has worked his way up from an apprentice quantity surveyor to president and managing director of Veritas Consultants Limited. In the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has appointed him co-chairman of the Disaster Recovery and Reconstruction Committee to provide critical project management guidance for recovery efforts. He has subsequently been appointed as the non-executive chairman of the newly formed Disaster Reconstruction Authority. This authority is responsible for the reconstruction efforts in the disaster zones of Abaco and Grand Bahama. Let us give a virtual welcome, round of applause to John Michael Clark. And if you've never done it before, you can open your camera and actually clap, or yes, you can do what Omar just did. Give us that virtual clap in the reactions. Thank you very much. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Sophia R. Walker. Sophia R. Walker is a business professional with strategic and hands-on experience in corporate environments, specifically in the financial services and telecommunications industries. With over 25 years of experience in the corporate world, Sophia has developed her expertise and demonstrated a proven ability to bring the benefits of technology to solve business issues while managing costs and risks. She has worked with business units to create solutions that increase efficiency and productivity. Sophia has a master's degree in international business and is a certified international project manager with an extensive background in technology and data governance. Her professional career has spanned several major corporations from entry level to vice president, with a seat at the table of strategic decision-making. Sophia is now a business owner, having moved into her own design and consulting business full-time. And please forgive me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. I am going to say AFOS, Design and Consulting. Now you can tell me if I did that wrong. Some of the notable projects Sophia has been involved in span several industries and cover topics such as website development, online banking, media program strategic rollout, as well as development of a business reporting platform. Sophia is also committed to service and has been a member of the IT and Electronics Program Advisory Committee at the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute for almost 10 years, 8 of those serving as chairperson of the committee. Sophia is a newly inducted member of Rotary International, bravo, and has also been a member of Pilot International for more than 15 years, having served as president of the Downtown Pilot Club of Nassau. Sophia is currently serving as the PR coordinator for the Sunshine Pilot Club of Nassau, as well as the PR coordinator for the entire Bahamas district of Pilot International. Let us warmly welcome, with our virtual applause, Sophia Walker. And finally, the lady of the hour, the visionary, the inspiration, we are going to introduce Mrs. Andrea Pratt-Smith. She is the founder and creative project manager at Creative Minds Project Development and Consultation, LLC. She is a project management professional and a certified Scrum Master. She holds several additional professional certifications and a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from the University of the Bahamas in Management Information Systems. She is a member of the Project Management Institute, a member of PMI South Florida and PMI Atlanta chapters, a member of the Scrum Alliance, a member of the South Florida Agile Association, a member of CompTIA, and a member of the Bahamas National Society of Youth Practitioners. Andrea is an active member of Evangelistic Temple, where she has diligently served as commander with the Royal Rangers Boys Club for over 15 years. She is also a member of her church's Toastmasters Club, bravo, ET Communicators, and an occasional participant in the Body and Soul Ministry. In June 2021, following a mandate from God, Andrea launched the Bahamas Project Management Community, BPMC, to serve as a central repository for project managers and those interested in joining the profession to have an outlet for networking, training, personal and professional development. The BPMC has bi-weekly virtual meetups on the 2nd and 4th Thursday every month and features both local and international speakers. Andrea is married to Arlington Smith. They have 5 children, 2 grandchildren, and a Shih Tzu. Andrea is a strong proponent of continuous learning and strives to become the best version of herself daily. She is presently pursuing an MBA in project management while simultaneously writing her first book, which chronicles her life experiences, challenges, and triumphs. Andrea enjoys learning, traveling, spending quality time with her family and friends, networking, public speaking, and empowering others. Let us again give our virtual round of applause to Andrea Pratt Smith. Thank you very much. We'd now like to get a good sense of who is in our audience tonight, just before we get rolling. And just under 60 seconds, please tell us, where are you joining us from? And are you an enthusiast or a project manager? So if you are, you can put PM, or you can put, I'm an enthusiast, I'm joining from the Bahamas, I'm joining from somewhere else around the world. Let us know where you're joining in from tonight. Thank you. Welcome, Fabian. Thank you, Omar. Welcome. Welcome, Esther and Cherie, I think it is, an enthusiast. Awesome. Good to have you. Hello there, Miss Catherine. Thank you for joining us, Kenny. We really appreciate all of you being here and being a part of this wonderful occasion, which is not only informative, but is also a fundraising event for the community. And so we're very grateful for your participation. So we welcome you, Ruth, Brian, a retiree. I'm so happy that you're here as well. We need you. We need that expertise. Tanya joining us from Turks and Caicos. Jackie, an enthusiast. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you. I do believe that each of our panelists is going to give a brief presentation, and then we will move into question and answer. And so we will just segue into that portion of our evening. And we welcome Sophia Walker to kick us off.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Right. So let's talk projects. So thank you again, everyone, for spending your time with us. I can only say that we probably have a very good mix of persons, enthusiasts, I like how you call that, Simmone, enthusiasts, as well as either project managers or aspiring project managers. And this is the audience that we wanted to talk to, right? So we wanted to give you a sense of what it means to be a project manager. We wanted to share our experiences. We wanted to talk about some of the things that we have done, and also to convey perhaps a bit of the path to project management, what it means to have a career in project management. But also, what can project management do for you? You know, if you are an enthusiast who not necessarily wants to have a career in project management, what can the project management methodology or the process do for you? So if we go to the next slide, it'll just give you a sense of the main items that we want to cover today. What is this project management thing? Why is it relevant? What can it do for us? How can it benefit you in your everyday lives, perhaps in the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, in your different environments, your community, your church? What can project management do for you? What is the benefit? And then each of us will try to convey share, I should say, our experiences as project managers in the Bahamas, throughout the world, working with different teams, and how that can show you what project management means, how you can get involved, how you can use project management to um, execute some of the things that you have to do in your day-to-day lives. So all of us come from different diverse backgrounds. And I think that you will see as we discuss some of the projects that we have worked on, that project management is not necessarily, you may tie project management to construction. I know everyone that I talk to think that project management is all about construction projects. But project management is a process that you can use across a lot of different things that you do in your lives. And that is one of the things that we wanted to convey today. So we'll talk a bit about some of the projects that we've done, and you can go to the next slide. As we look at some of the projects that we've done, I just wanted to choose one project that is something that a lot of people would have executed in their different aspects of their lives. It can be simple, it can be complex. The budget can be small, the budget can be large. But the takeaway that I want to talk about this project is while the method, while the details of that project may be different, the outcome should still be the same. It is effectively achieving the outcome that you have been asked to execute. So persons need a website for different purposes. They can be large, they can be small. They can have a lot of different design components. There can be a lot of different moving parts for a lot of different purposes. But at the end of the day, the purpose of the project manager is to make sure that for whatever the purpose of the website development, you work with your client or whoever was the person that sponsored that project to achieve the outcomes. And one of the things that I want to mention at this point is it is very important as a project manager to actually have real good clarity around the outcomes for the project. Because while you can put plans and actions to paper, they are just that, plans and actions on paper. It's not until you actually work with the stakeholders, understand what is the scope of the project, that you can actually work toward putting those different pieces in place to execute. So that is a very key thing as project managers that we have to understand. And as we discuss throughout the evening, you will see that some of the things that can make that go very wrong are simply that, not understanding that scope, or underestimating or overestimating that scope, what is involved, what is required to get to the outcome. So I just want to mention quickly some of the lessons learned as a project manager, working with different clients, working in different industries, working with different types of projects. And that is making sure that what is put down as the scope, everybody involved understands. So that boils down to stakeholder management, right? So when you speak to a client and the client A says, I'd like a website. And you say, okay, I can build you a website, but you don't ask the key questions. What type of website? What is it for? How large do you want this website to be? Are you taking payments? Is this a website where you want people to sign up, for a newsletter or something like that? So it can be very, very simple. It can be very complex. And one of the things that you have to understand as a project manager is what exactly is the ask for the project so that you can properly execute. So that's one of the things that I wanted to convey as a project manager. One of the lessons learned is really understanding the scope of the project and making sure that everyone that is involved is actually on board. You have that buy-in so that you don't go to one set of persons who are supposed to be a part of the project and it's, oh, I didn't know we were doing this. Oh, there's no money for this. Oh, I don't have time for this. So everyone needs to be on board. So that is definitely one of the biggest lessons learned that I would say as I work on projects. And in my experience, the one thing that I would also like to leave with everyone is a project should be looked at individually every time. So even though you may develop a website for one client, a website is not a website, it's not a website. You have to look at every project individually and look at the outcomes for that person or for that particular purpose individually. And that's one of the things that I would say I like about project management. It is that it is diverse. It is something where you can work with different industries, work with different client types, and also work with different scales of projects. And so I think that that is one thing that I would certainly want to be a takeaway. But certainly as the night goes on and as we ask more questions, we can really dive into some of the details of some of the different projects and the methods that we have used to develop those projects. And so I will turn it over now to John Michael.
You're muted. You're muted, John Michael.
I'm trying to unmute.
There you go.
Okay, there you are. You're good now.
Good night, everyone. It's good to be here. It isn't often that I get to talk about project management in its pure sense. At least I haven't done so in the last couple of months. But I was very happy when Andrea asked me to say a few words about project management. And Sophia, you got us off to a very good start about what project management is and how it works. And we do a project management training. And the first thing I tell people is, this isn't construction management. Construction is an application of project management, but it isn't all that project management is. I got into project management in a construction sense when I was 17. I did my first project management course at the College of the Bahamas as a 16-year-old student at COB. And I was in and around construction for almost 15 years before I actually learned what project management was and it is in its truest sense. But that said, it is quite easy for us to be in and around projects all the time and not think of what we're actually doing in a formal project management sense. Everything, project management is all around you. It is all encompassing. What formal project management training does is it allows you to recognize the tools and to recognize which techniques you should apply to your life work so that the work of your life in a project management sense is more successful. PMI is one of the many institutions that have collected and organized those tools so that people could understand and recognize that they're actually using them in their everyday life. And all the certifications do is tell you that you use the tools well. People ask me all the time, which certification is better? And all they do is say, look, you've learned what the tools and techniques are, and you can do them well according to a particular standard. My belief, and my personal belief, is that if you master the principles of project management, if you understand and recognize how to use the tools and techniques, you can apply those to any number of projects across any number of industries and get the similar result. For my part, this is my 36th year in construction in the Bahamas. And I started out as an apprentice quantity surveyor. That's somebody that measures building and cost. And like Simmone said in the bio, we've gotten to a point where we've done some notable projects in the country. I will talk about Hurricane Dorian for a brief second. And that is probably my most interesting project over the last 20 months. And I was actually sitting at the same desk and I got a call from the cabinet of the Bahamas. Somebody literally called me from cabinet and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm at my desk. And the person said, it was a cabinet minister. He said, "The prime minister wants to meet you at NEMA at 4 o'clock. So I go to NEMA at 4 o'clock. And the prime minister, of course, he comes at 5 o'clock. And we sit down, he does a press conference, and then we sit down, and he says to me, I want you to assist in organizing the recovery of Hurricane Dorian. In that moment, I did not think about, and I say to people, the enormity of the task did not hit me. What I went directly to is you default as a project manager to the systems that you know. The first thing was, well, what is the scope of the problem? And that meant I had to sit down with the NEMA stakeholders, and they told me what was the scope of the problem. The first thing you do in recovery is essential need, access. The big things were, first is access, then it's essential needs, then it's search and rescue, and they gave me the big buckets. And what I found is that the things that you learn, the things that I learned as a project manager, I naturally began to default to. It wasn't until months later, and when I said many, many months later, like 5 or 6 months down the road, that I was able to stop and think about it. I said, wow, that was a hell of a project. And the thing about recovery, everything is agile. My training is in waterfall project management. And in construction and in waterfall project management, what that means is everything is iterative. The design process is iterative, the construction process is iterative. And here it is, the most significant project that I've ever had to do was in a totally agile environment. When you're doing disaster management, everything is Scrum and Sprint. You go day to day, and sometimes not even day to day. Some of it is hour by hour. And those things are so dynamic for the recovery to be successful. But as a project manager, I just naturally made the switch. And it was because I understood the core principles. What I have learned, and I guess my biggest lesson, is that in a waterfall environment, what you learn is that planning is the key. So in construction, when you are doing things that are iterative, planning definitely is the key. In an agile environment, flexibility is the key. I've been fortunate enough to have had significant projects in both environments with relatively good success. It depends on who you ask. But what I would say is, for people that want to get into project management, learn as much as you can. Do a lot of reading. It is one of those fields that there is always room for growth. There's always new things to learn. And because each project is unique and the outcomes are unique, there's always excitement. And with that said, I'll leave the rest for, if anybody has any questions, we could talk some more during the question and answer period.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm up. Okay. I will try to make this as brief as I can. My name is Andrea Pratt-Smith, and my most notable project that I want to talk about is the forming of this Bahamas Project Management Community. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, because I was not sure. I cannot see any participants' faces, so I thought I was speaking to myself for a second there. Okay, so what I feel is my most notable project is forming this Bahamas Project Management Community. And as Simmone said in the introduction when she read my short bio, this is not something that came to me just out of sheer luck. This is something that the Lord impressed upon my heart. And he gave me this mandate and said, this is what he wants me to do. And so That's how this whole organization came about. And we've been fortunate enough where we've had speakers from both local in the Bahamas, and we had a few international speakers. If you registered for this event, you would have been sent to our events page, and you will notice that our meetups are usually free, besides this one, which we happen to have as a fundraiser to support the organization, the community, and our operational costs. And we have events scheduled up until December 9th when we close for the year. So please go back if you didn't take a chance and look at those events. We have some awesome speakers coming up, including Simmone. What I want to say about the Bahamas Project Management Community. This is an environment where if you're somebody who loves to learn, you've come to the right place. We are always looking for ways where we can enhance each other. I am a continuous learner. I love to learn. Like Simmone says, I'm in the process of starting my master's degree, and I also have a few other project management certifications on that list along with that master's degree. And I'm always looking for challenges. And so with that, challenging myself to think outside of the box, to not think, like John Michael said, in the traditional project management sense. I am also a certified Scrum Master, which is in the Agile arena, like he spoke about. I am also a certified Agile leader, which means that the projects I take on are not necessarily your everyday iterative projects, like he would have mentioned construction. I also take on Agile projects, and I'm a part of a Scrum team where we build a mobile app. And so I want to poll the audience, but I cannot see the audience. I have a question that I want to ask the audience. Can the chat monitor assist me with this? Jacquie, are you there? Okay, well, maybe someone can help me.
Yeah, I can help you for sure.
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Yes, I
All right,
can.
okay. I would like the audience to put up their virtual hands if they have any project management certification. Doesn't matter which organization it's with. If you have any project management certification, at least one, put your virtual hand up. Okay, that's the first poll. Now, keep your hand raised if that certification is from the Project Management Institute. If it's not, lower your hand. If that project management certification is with the Project Management Institute, keep your hand raised. So no hand is dropping, right? No, 2 hands drop. Now, if you are a member of PMI, keep your hand raised. So you have to have a project management certification. That have to be a certification from the Project Management Institute. And you have to be a member in good standing with the Project Management Institute. That means your dues are paid. You've paid for the year and you're in good standing. That's 3 things. If you meet those 3 criteria, keep your hand raised. The next thing, are you a member of any of the PMI chapters, whether it's South Florida, Atlanta, the UK, Nigeria, Shanghai? If you're a member of any PMI chapter. Do we have any hands still up? Chat monitors.
Yes,
Does it-
see hands up.
Okay, how many hands are raised?
2. There's 2 hands.
I see 2.
2 hands.
Yeah.
When we started, how many hands were raised? Did anyone count?
6
There's
or 7.
2 hands that are
It's
raised.
about 6, yeah.
Okay, let me tell you what is a valuable lesson I have learned being a project manager and being a Scrum Master. There is power in networking. You have so many opportunities that you're not exploring because you're not a member of PMI or you're not a member of any other chapter. That is the most valuable piece of advice I can give anyone who is thinking or who is even in project management right now, because it makes no sense to have a certification if you're not nurturing that tree. To me, my certifications means to me that I've planted a seed But if I'm not going out and I'm not exploring opportunities where I can get fed, where that seed can be watered, where other capacities can be sprung up outside of me, then why do I have those initials behind my name? Just to say I have them? You know, I have so many letters behind my name. My family tease me and call me Andrea the alphabet soup. So don't be an alphabet soup with no substance. Put your training and your education and what you have received to good use and go out there and meet your peers. We had our meetup last month. Our speaker was from Shanghai, China. How do I know him? Through networking. How do I know most of our upcoming speakers? Through networking. It takes nothing for me to join a meetup and said, okay, you know, I'm a founder of this community. I would love for you to speak at our event. And that benefits not only myself, but that benefits the whole community. And project management to me is about building a community. And that's why this Bahamas Project Management Community is so valuable, because we have a chance to network, we have a chance to learn. And if you're a person who always wants to upskill, and I think everybody should want to have that ability to upskill and learn a new trade, because, you know, we're in an economy now where we're facing so many challenges. Persons are unemployed, but they're so used to being in one box. Like if you're in hospitality, that's all you know, hospitality. But there's so much different opportunities out there if you just have an open mind and be willing to learn. You know, you can tell the waitress, there's no jobs right now for waitresses, but come and join our events and learn a new skill. And when you apply to a job, you can put on there, you know, I know how to put a schedule together. I know how to manage what else is there that project management do? You manage budgets, you manage schedules, you know, it's so many things. She can plan an event. She might go from being a waitress to being an event planner. You know, you have to have an open mind and be able to put yourself out there, take risk. Being a project manager, you know, risks are good. You know, we try to avoid risk, but risks are good sometimes because we want to grow. And the only way we grow is when we come out of our comfort zone and we explore new opportunities. And so I can talk for hours about my experience as a project manager, but I know we want to get to the question and answer section. So I am going to turn it. No, before I turn it, let me turn my slide. My next slide is just to tell you what the Bahamas Project Management Community is an inclusive, continuous learning community dedicated to helping not only project management professionals, but anyone who is interested in joining the profession, like I said, to upskill and excel. And these are some of the things that we've committed to doing, providing educational opportunities. We recently had a training for persons who wanted to be certified Scrum Masters. And I don't know if John Michael wanted me to share this, but he was one of the persons in our session who was able to get that training to be a certified Scrum Master. And so that's just helping him to enhance his skill sets. We also have our community events, our meetups, and we provide updates on what's happening current in project management and industry best practices. Like everything else, project management is an evolving trade. The same way doctors have to go and get continuing education units, project managers have to get professional development units. In order for us to recertify, we have to have a certain amount of professional development units. Am I correct, John Michael? Don't you have to have PDUs and SEUs in order to recertify? So it's a continuous learning process. Once you're in it, you're in it. And so if you're somebody who loves working projects, and everybody works projects, we all work projects. So if you think that this community is something where you feel that you can benefit from it, then connect with us, join us. I advise you take a snapshot of this page. We have many ways you can link with us. We have a WhatsApp broadcast group, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the website that you would have gone on to register for this event. So I have talked enough. I'm going to turn it over, and it's time for our picture. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I know people don't like to turn on their cameras, but this is the one time we ask you to quickly turn on your cameras. And this time, Mr. Jacks, please let us have more than half of your head in the frame. because you always sit low in the camera. So if you can please quickly turn on your camera. We just want to take a quick screenshot for our social media feeds to let persons know that you were here and you were proud to be here. Oh, this is going to take a minute. We have half of you that still have not turned on your cameras. Thank you, Marquin. Mr. Jacques, you're still not centered. Much better. Don't now you prop the top of your head off, Mr. Jacques. Yes, Kenny, please help him. Okay, so if no one else is coming on camera, then we're going to take our picture. Thank you, Ruth. Good to see you. Hey, Miss Esther, you're still at work. Hey, Miss Catherine. You look so nice to not want to be on camera. What's going on? Okay, I'm going to think that everyone else just doesn't want to be on camera.
But
I
I
do
do have
wanna-
one person sending apologies. They're unable to turn on their camera right now.
Okay, that's our visiting guest from Turks and Caicos. Welcome. We are so glad that we are going to a different island. I mean, Omar is joining us from Puerto Rico. So we're global guys. You should be proud. So we're going to take a picture. I blinked. Keep still. Okay, I did about 3, so one of them have to look sensible. Thank you very much. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Picture time is over. Okay, there we are.
Awesome. And we can definitely go back to that contact information before we close tonight, so people can definitely connect with the community on social media. And if they have additional questions, perhaps beyond tonight. So
Yes.
One of the first questions that I'd like to throw out, and I laughed when you said, Andrea, that your family calls you, what, the alphabet soup?
The alphabet soup. And my sister actually called me today when I told her I was going to do my master's degree. She said, boy, you like to study. You know, like, when are you going to stop being in school?
But you know, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And I think when you really are a lifelong learner, you just don't stop. You don't ever stop, you know, so
No.
that's a great thing.
That's why
But
it's
the
called
thing that-
lifelong.
Exactly, lifelong. You don't ever stop learning. We can't ever learn enough.
No.
You know, absolutely, Jackie, always a student. So one of the questions that we have received already is, you define in layman's terms, what is Agile? And I think that would be helpful for us to have a common set of glossary, for instance, of terms of, you know, what are some of the things that you all have been talking about, each of you, in your individual areas. So you talked a lot about Scrum, you talked about Agile. So if you could just define those for us, please, and then the others of you can define perhaps some other specific areas that you focus on in project management that we can simplify as definitions, please.
Okay, so I'll pass that question to John Michael, since he just recently completed his training. That should be fresh in his mind.
Actually, I've been reading Agile since it came out, since its genesis. So there are several different project management approaches. In traditional project management, when you hear me talk about iterative project management, I want you to think of a staircase. And this used to be the old project. I'm dating myself now. They used to have a project management stairway would start to the bottom and finish at the top. And you used to go through the project on a step-by-step basis. So you do the first thing, then you do the second thing, then you do the third thing. And it was really, really structured with things, one happening right after the next as you're climbing a stair. That works well for things like construction, where you have to have design. You know, the architect has to do something, then the engineers do something after the architect is finished, then the contractor does something after the engineers and the architects are finished. You can't build the walls until the foundations are finished. That works well in construction and manufacturing. It did not work well in software development, where and technology. And these were growing fields where in those environments, things are actually very, very dynamic. The testing cycles were smaller, and in most instances, you couldn't afford the iteration for results. So what happened is a group of people got together and they developed what we call an agile technique. And what agile does is, agile is very, very dynamic. We call it adaptive project management. Instead of an iterative process, agile kind of brings all of the persons together and they work in very, very short spaces to produce project results. And what that is I want you to think of how would I put it? It is a collection of small successes in order to produce a very, very big game. So whereas in iterative project management, you are jumping steps, what you do in Agile is it's kind of slicing up a loaf of bread into various slices and putting them all together into a loaf of bread that you sell. Each slice, you are completing a significant part of the project, but they all need to go together for you to sell that loaf of bread in the store.
Now he's made me hungry.
I mean, Sophie, is that okay?
I can agree. And the thing about it is, I think you said it best when you said that Agile kind of came about with technology. So what you'll find with technology projects is you cannot wait until you get to the end, the so-called delivery phase, to find out if everything went well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of testing, and then sometimes you have to go back to the beginning. Why? Because the testing phase usually shows you that, yeah, I wanted a car, but this car isn't doing what I wanted it to do, and back to the beginning. And so that's where Agile is extremely effective, when you have to do that cycle of testing, changing, back to the beginning, testing, changing, back to the beginning. You cannot finish something and be done with it when you're doing technology. A lot of times you have to go back. So I think the Agile method there is truly the best. And like John Michael said, some things, yes, you can go in order. Once one thing is done, you leave it, you go to the next thing. But software and technology, that's usually not the case. So I think that is the best way to see how Agile is very, very effective, the Agile methodology.
Well, if I could interject, being a certified Scrum Master and a certified Agile leader, I apply Agile in almost everything I do in my life. You know, I have long goals, which are big goals, and I have small goals. And like John Michael said, you know, you have to cut that up and segment it in order to accomplish what we call a minimal viable product. That's what you produce, a minimal viable product, or what they call an MVP. And with software development, that's not the only thing that Agile is used for, but that's where it got its foundation. But when you think about developing a product, trends change, people wants change. So if you take a long time to develop a product and put it to market, by the time as you release that product, what the consumer wants could have already changed. And so you may be sending out a product that's no longer wanted in the market. And so that's why you have so many steps along the way to make sure that whatever you're producing is still providing value to your product owner, and it's still something that your customers would want at the end of the day, because you don't want to produce something that has no value. But Jacquie has informed me that we have a few questions in the chat.
Yes. The next question is by Catherine Benaby. She asks a question: how do you go about choosing a chapter?
Okay, I think she noted earlier that she has a CAPM certification, which is under the Project Management Institute. Once you are a member of the Project Management Institute, they have on their website where you can choose a chapter. That chapter is at your discretion. You choose which chapter you want to go to. And even now, for me, I was always a member of the PMI South Florida chapter, but the PMI Atlanta chapter sent out an invitation for you to join for free, but that was a limited time. And so once you're a member of PMI, you can join whatever chapter. There's chapter fees. I think they range from $25 a year and up. Some are a little bit more costly, but PMI South Florida, I know is $25 once you're a member of PMI, and PMI Atlanta is $35 a year. And that fee coincides with your PMI membership fee. So even if you are currently a member of PMI and your subscription is about to expire, or your membership with PMI is about to expire, if you join now, they will charge you that charter fee, the chapter fee, plus once your PMI membership expires, you will have to pay that chapter fee again. So be mindful, if you're coming to the end of your PMI membership, you may want to wait until that expires and then join the chapter the same time you renew your PMI membership. Any other questions? Well, I hope that answered our question.
Yeah, there are quite a few questions. I wanted to circle back a little bit to the concept of Agile, and all of these are different terminologies, to ask a two-pronged question. First one is, how would you apply Agile outside of technology and construction, for instance? So I am in the field of HR, human resources, and that's become a very big buzzword in our profession, that HR professionals need to be Agile. So for our people in the audience that may not be in technology per se, maybe in a different industry, how would you apply that?
Okay, who's taking that question? Because I have an idea.
Sophie? Andrea, y'all want to go? I don't want to.
Okay, let me answer the question. I'll answer the question. Okay, first of all, Agile is a methodology that has many frameworks. Scrum just happens to be one of those frameworks underneath the Agile methodology. You also have Kanban, you have Lean, you have Safe, and you have probably several others that I'm not even aware of. So when you talk about Agile, think of it as a big umbrella, like I do. And you have a lot of different areas underneath that umbrella. It's a hierarchical structure, actually. And for HR, I would consider applying the Scrum framework, because Scrum has a lot of benefits as far as the ceremonies that are performed, as far as the retrospective, as far as the time management is involved. You have very short iterations. You can have a sprint anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and you do retrospectives, you do sprint planning. And so in HR, you can take your tasks and you could break them down into sprints. And once you know what is your overall goal, you have a product owner that's responsible for your product backlog. And then you will have your Scrum team and your, however you want to call it, your development team. And the Scrum team is able to work outside of silos. That's the difference. Traditional project management works in silos, where you have a HR department that's separate and alone from your marketing department, that's separate and alone from all the other areas, and you have different managers. But once you work underneath the Scrum framework, you would realize that you have now a cross-functional team, and you don't need anyone outside of your team. And you're only working with a small group of persons from 5 to 7 individuals, even up to 9. I think the max they take is 5 to 9 individuals on your team. And each one of you bring a skill set outside of those other departments, and you work on one project. And that's what your focus is. And you'll find that over time, your team will become self-managing and self-organizing, and you will develop your MVPs on a faster basis than if you had to go through all the bureaucracies of being in different developmental silos.
Okay, that sounds good. So the next thing is going back to the alphabet soup. Are certifications really necessary? And if you already have a certification, what would be the next step?
Well, it depends who you ask. Are certifications necessary? I don't think they're necessary. I think you can read a book and be educated. But, you know, it all depends on your goals as an individual. Now, if you aspire to obtain certifications, then by all means, the world is your oyster. Go and get as much as you want. You know, just put ... Stop putting the letters. LinkedIn only allows so much letters, right? So then you have the ellipses at the end, ... So it depends, you know, how you want to get your training is up to you. You don't have to get certifications. You could attend workshops, seminars, you could join communities. It depends. Just, you know, being a lifelong learner is not about getting certifications.
I would say the knowledge is necessary. The certifications are necessary insofar as they allow you access. And that's what the certifications do. All they do is certifications, they certify and validate that you have the knowledge to get particular access. And that could be employment access, that could be opportunity access. So if you look at it that way, but the most important thing is the knowledge.
And knowledge is power.
Right. I want to go back to Andrea's Scrum example. Was everybody clear on that Scrum example?
You can go a little deeper.
Yeah, no, but she used a lot of project management terms.
Yes, I wanted to say that. I think so.
She was in class just now, you know. And
sorry.
Like,
Please,
Can you guys explain iterations?
yeah, I don't know.
Sorry,
Okay.
I think Monique wanted to make a comment. I think Monique had
She
that.
wants the explanation of iterations. Okay.
No.
Think of it like runners. Let's think of it like the Olympics just ended. Think of it like it's a race. You have a 100-meter race, right? Or let's go 400-meter race. An iteration is exactly what we call it, a sprint, right? So you have your sprinters, they run from the starting line to the 100-meter line. From the starting line to 100 meters, that's an iteration. It just means that I broke that 400 meters down into a block. And so now instead of me trying to deliver you a whole 400 meters, I have 4 sprints of 100 meters. I hope that was clear enough.
Andrea, can I share something?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, and this is real quick. I just want to use a real life example for what Andrea just said. And don't laugh, you all, please don't laugh at me. But this is actually the recovery plan for the first 14 days of Hurricane Dorian. The second 14 days of Hurricane Dorian. And each one of these big clouds is a project in essence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear Andrea talk about sprints, each one of these things would be a sprint. The whole recovery, we broke the big recovery process into chunks of 14 days. That's how we were doing it, 14 days at a time. So this is what we were trying to accomplish, all of this work in 14 days. Each one of these little arrows is a little project related to the sprint. The person that ran the total recovery, that was our Scrum Master. And this person would come, go through all of these projects, and we had somebody responsible for the cloud, each cloud. And they would get together every morning and huddle. So for example, under utilities, who's talking to water and sewage? What do they have to do? They have to connect this line, this state. And that's all they would focus on in order to get to the end result of the cloud. And after 14 days, we looked at this and tried to determine how much of this we've actually accomplished. And then we plan the next 14 days.
And the
So-
biggest thing is that it's concurrent, right?
Right. that it was
Everything is
concurrent.
happening at the
That's right.
same time. So responder management is not waiting on assessments and
That's
then
right.
assessments and then utilities and then cleanup. So it's all happening concurrently.
All of it.
So
Right.
everybody takes their part and they are working on their little blocks all at the same time so that you actually get to the end line,
End
hopefully quicker,
That's
and
right.
you see the results and know if you have to make adjustments.
And that is Agile in a nutshell. This is working in an Agile environment in a nutshell.
Mhm.
As opposed
It's a lot
to
of moving
if I show you a
parts, but
construction
yeah.
schedule, it looks totally different. It looks totally different.
The
than that.
timeline is months and months
Yeah,
and months.
timeline,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
So for construction, you're looking more at phases rather than
Right.
sprints.
You'll see, you know the classic bar chart?
Yeah.
That's construction.
And it's usually because there are dependencies. Like John Michael
Yeah,
said,
right.
one thing cannot go until the other
Unless
thing
something
is
done.
done. When you
Right.
look at it like on a project like this, in this way, these things are not dependent on one another.
No.
They are independent, but they do have some connection. So people can take their piece and go away and work on it and just talk to whoever they need to if there are some hooks into any other chunk. But it can run concurrently, which is quite different from other projects, which will have timelines months out.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. You know, the people that came for housing, they came and they went into their little huddle, and if they, you know, they dealt with housing. And it was all.
I think the biggest thing with with this is communication is very key.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have people who are kind of going off and doing their thing, they have to be very accountable, very responsible. And if there is something that they have to come to another team for, communication is very important because it's the same thing. You don't want to get to your 14 days and say, oh, but I needed so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z, and you didn't talk to them. So the communication while all of this is going on to me is very, very important.
So in this example, following up what Sophia said with the communication, they met first thing in the morning, 7 o'clock every morning, and 9:30 every night. So you did a morning check, and the morning check for what has to happen today, and a night check for what you were planning for tomorrow.
Oh, what didn't happen today?
Or what didn't happen today. Yeah.
And so again, for clarity, the Scrum Master is the mastermind of all of this and keeping it all
well,
together.
actually, no, the Scrum Master is really the coordinator to make sure that all of these things happen and creating the environment for transparent communication. That's what the Scrum Master does.
And that person, I guess, works in tandem with the project manager then. I'm thinking like from an HR perspective you know, like a traditional org chart. So in
Agile, in Agile, the nomenclature is not 100% the same.
Okay.
So whereas in what we call traditional project management, and the term is waterfall, in traditional project management, where the project manager, when it comes to project and project delivery, is the ultimate authority. That is not the same case in Agile. The Scrum Master, then there is not an equivalent.
Okay.
It's just the position in the process. That's all.
So we have a question for you, John Michael, as it relates to this project, which is like real life, real time, which we have in the chat. People are very excited about this diagram, right? So,
yeah, you know, people say, "Oh, you guys had no plan," and you know, I used to hurt my feelings.
Right. So the question is, how do you manage burnout on a project of this scale?
I'm going to take my first vacation next month.
Oh wow! In 2 years.
Vacation. Yeah. And actually that is you know, I think about the current pandemic, where a lot of that is also Agile in terms of how that is managed. You could probably come up with a similar scenario for the way that we've approached the pandemic. And burnout in this scenario, we did it every 14 days, because at the end of 14 days, it's finished. You clean this up. And what we found that did is, the mere fact that you said you were starting a new planning period at 14 days, it gave people a sense that something is past, and there's a natural recovery when you know that you've actually completed something. There's a newness that you feel when something comes off of the board.
Yeah.
It is really, really hard in a disaster environment, particularly given the extent of this disaster, to get to a point where there is no burnout. The inclination is always to be looking ahead, and when you are sensitized to lives and needs, you find yourself working 20 hours quite easily, 7 days for 5 weeks. And then you just realize, one morning you get up, it's hard for you to drive down the road. But as a project manager, you have to know that, given the enormity of the task, that's something that you think about. As a project leader, you have to think about how you manage your human resources and make sure that they have relief. Generally, what we do in disaster is we try to go 2 and 3 deep. So you're not relying on any one person in any one area. The good thing about disaster management in this country is that you actually pull in resources from a number of places. You have NGOs, and you can actually farm things out. And that helps manage the workload of the persons involved.
And another question for all of the panelists is, how often do you actually document lessons learned on your projects?
Every day. You don't stop documenting.
Yeah.
That's a continuous thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a continuous thing.
Yes, and do not wait until after the project is completed to try to go back and document. You're supposed to document as it come up, and it's not just and it's not just the bad things that you discover. It's also the things that you know that works well. So lessons learned are good lessons and bad lessons, but they're lessons. Like, how can I make my next project better than this project? And it's not just for your benefit. Lessons learned is for anyone who comes behind you and does a similar project, to have that artifact as a resource to help them. And in fact, those who have Project Management Institute certifications, they would know that lessons learned is actually one of the inputs to some of those processes. So that's a documentation, that's an input and also an output.
One of the execution points in traditional project management, when you talk about team development, and I like what they talk about, team knowledge acquisition. So what happens in every project is there is learning. The team acquires knowledge in every project, with every project activity. And what that means is, when you look at it in that sense, there is always continuous learning. There's always something to learn. And because there's always something to learn, there's always something to document. Even if it appears as though you're doing similar projects or another project of the same type, there's always something to learn. No, humans are dynamic, and because humans are intimately involved in projects, the person that I knew 5 years ago working on the project is not the same person that works with me today. Because that person has matured, their experiences are different, their influences are different. So the team changes. Everybody changes every day. Everybody changes. So in that respect, project environments are very, very dynamic, and there's always things to learn.
Awesome. So the next couple of questions will be kind of BPMC focused in this context. So how can the community sensitize the country really about this important thing that we call project management, and all of the dynamics that come with it, the benefits that it can bring to so many of the different things that we need done, and we need to be agile about it, right? I mean, I know we're recording, so I won't go in that direction, but I think we all know we have quite a number of things that we need to be agile about, and one of them took place today. But anyway, right? So how do we sensitize really organizations, private sector, public sector, civil society, nonprofits, that this is something that should be incorporated in how they execute their mandates?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we can do as individuals is to just support this community, support it by joining the meetups, support it by telling others about it, sharing our links, you know, just have the conversation going. This is something that's making a change. This is something that is bringing value. This is something that you want to be a part of because it's impacting and it's making a difference. It's impactful. And so each one tell one, or, you know, we have a small role to play. And if we can just come together as a community and build, once we build, and we know we're trying to get your trust. We're young. We just started on June 1st, so we're building up the trust. We're getting the word out there that we're here and we're trying to make a change. So once we have our documentations together, we'll have more information coming to the public sector about what this community plans to do, what our goals, vision, mission, and all that stuff is. And we just hope that you would continue to partner with us and support this endeavor.
Right. So you see advocacy then, and I guess relations as a part of the mandate of the community, BPMC, I mean.
Yes, very much. And
okay.
Sophia and John Michael could add if they want to that. That's a very important
question. I just want to say, yeah, I think that the meetups is one of the best ways that we can start that process. We are very new, as you say. I think the meetups is a way for persons to really come and see what it is that we're trying to convey, the information that we're trying to share. But I think over time, as persons join in and we get a cross section of persons in the community, I think that will also help us to convey or to share or to help the rest of the community to understand what this BPMC can actually do. You know, it's not just, you know, finding a place to go and talk about projects. It's really trying to build a community of project managers and the expertise in the different methodologies so that we can do things for the country, so that we can do some collective projects, community projects. It's not just to come together to talk. It's really to be able to have a community of strong project managers who can actually share that expertise across the country in ways where maybe people don't understand how many project managers there are in the country. I think maybe they don't know. And so, you know, that there is a pool of project managers to draw on when there are major things happening in the country. I think that's also very important. But I think time will help us to prove what we know, the talent that is available. And as more persons come on board, I think the word will spread that, you know, this is a community of talent that can be relied upon to get things done. And I think that is one of the biggest things. But the meetups, I think, is an excellent way to show what project management is all about, the different topics around project management, and get persons engaged who may not have understood that before.
And in that vein, again, as you mentioned, this is a new organization. Do you plan to offer classes for the PMP exam?
I don't foresee classes for the PMP exam itself because we have numerous entities already in this country that's offering those classes. I can say that I do see this community offering more certifications underneath the Agile methodology, as far as continuing to offer courses for those interested in being certified Scrum Masters, certified Agile leaders, certified Scrum coaches, certified enterprise coaches. You know, that's the direction I see this community going, because that's a niche market. We don't have any organizations in the Bahamas now that I'm aware of that's offering those services. And like John Michael said, Agile is not new. Agile has been around for over 20 years. And the fact that, you know, when you talk about Agile, persons are like, what? she's a what? No, what is a Scrum Master? That shouldn't be, why is the Bahamas in a bubble? And so I feel as though I have a personal obligation to be an ambassador, not only for Agile. Actually, I am the Bahamas ambassador for upcoming Agile Festival. I just remembered saying that. But it's not a new thing. So why are we 20 plus years behind the rest of the world? And so that's the direction I think this community is going to be going, to service a need where there's a lack, not to do what everyone else is doing, but to be the new thing.
Do you see BPMC being engaged in projects that would allow members to gain project management experience or PDUs?
Most definitely. In fact, we had our first project, which was Project One. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we launched Project One in June, which was our first project under this community. And it was actually a kids club where we taught children how to be entrepreneurs. And so we had several children who actually started businesses. We had 8 to 12-year-olds who started their first business. And that is what the power this community has. We are empowering young persons for them to realize that project management starts at any age. Once you have that skill set and you are trained and you are mentored, they can have their own businesses at 8 and 9 years old. In fact, my daughter just got her business license this week. She wanted to continue her business. And so she's a business owner at 9 years old. So we're providing opportunities for not only adults, but children as well. And Project One was a very successful endeavor.
That is awesome. That is really good. So let me just check, are there other questions that we may have left on the floor? While we do that, I think we do have a question for John Michael. I think some of it may have been answered in the bio, but what were the nature of projects you managed prior to Hurricane Dorian?
Oh, wow. Okay. So prior to Dorian, I've been in and around construction projects since I could say the late 1980s. Some of the most notable projects, I was a project manager at the Caves while I was working at Cavalier Construction, the ones that are actually on the water. I was a project manager there. If we go to the Malia Hotel, the swim-up bar and the outdoor bar and grill, I was the project manager that made sure that that happened. I've worked on the Abaco Airport, the Long Island Airport that they are proposing. I did some preliminary work for the Cat Island Airport, the critical care block at the Princess Margaret Hospital. I was the owner representative for the Airport Gateway Road. I was the project manager. I did some project work for the Fishing Hole Road. I actually scoped that project and developed the budget for that project. The Rand Memorial Hospital, the most recent kitchen cafeteria project, and the restoration of the hospital after Hurricane Dorian. We were in charge of cost control. I am presently working with Doctors Hospital on a few projects. We've done 4 schools, maybe 3 or 4 schools. The vaccine repository at Flamingo Gardens. So I've been involved in quite a number of things during my tenure over the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Simmone, that's one of the things that we want to pull together as a community, right? As I said before, what talent do we have? What have people done? And to be able to showcase that in a way where when large projects are underway, that everybody knows that there is a pool of talent right here that they can draw on. And I think that's important. You know, when persons are doing things individually, you don't necessarily know it or see it. But I think if we can pull together a community and we're able to actually correlate all that information, collate all that information, and there is a way where people can see, oh, these people have done some really good projects and they've done them well. That I think that is very important. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the community can offer to the country, to show that there is a group of people here who have talent that can be drawn upon to do some things in the country.
I agree. And coming out of the meetups, and I guess this is the other part of my brain that's going, but producing case studies that you can share on social media or among your members or prospective members. If you have, you know, your newsletter, monthly newsletter, you can showcase a particular project that your membership may be working on, and you highlight, you know, the challenges, the successes, the people who've been working on it, lessons learned, as we talked about, right? I think that would be an amazing tool as well, not only for your membership and prospective members, but for the community at large, to know, as Sophia said, who is out there, what they're doing. Because honestly, before tonight, I mean, I kind of know John Michael and Sophia.
John Michael is not household name.
But I didn't really know what they were doing. Like, y'all do this amazing work, you know? And so I think awareness is gonna go a long way to the success of what you are all doing. So in the last few minutes that we have, I would like for each of you to share, what do you think is the most common challenge working on projects? And what is the most important characteristic a project manager can have to be successful? So what are the most common challenge, and what would be the characteristic that you think it makes a project manager successful?
Well, if I may, I think I mentioned one of the challenges that I have had as a project manager, and I think it's stakeholder management. I think it's making sure that you understand who are all the persons that are involved and what are all the components that are involved. Having clarity about that, to me, is extremely important. Otherwise, you can be spending a lot of energy on something, and at the end of the day, the outcome is just not what anybody wanted or asked for. So I think that that's one thing. In terms of a characteristic, the first thing that comes to mind is really being able to, I don't want to say multitask, but being able to manage a lot of moving parts, because I think that's what project management is all about. You know, you cannot have people going off and doing things and you have no visibility of it. So being able to have the visibility of the different moving parts and making sure that they're going in a direction in a way that makes sense at a timeline that is important for the project, I think that that's one of the biggest things. That attention to detail and having an eye on the ball, I think, is extremely important.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia. John Michael.
I think one of the biggest challenges really is communication. So many things hinge through communication that really impacts so many things on the project. Being able to create the environment where people feel as though they can communicate and up and down across the board, that stakeholder, team members, vendors, contractors, whoever's involved in the project, creating an environment where, and that's important. It's important for data gathering, it's important for planning, it's important for execution. If you are not able to create that environment where persons within the project can communicate and communicate effectively, you are going to have, you're not going to get anything done in the project. And to me, the most important characteristic of a very, very good project manager is somebody with very, very high emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. I like to think of it sometimes, you know, sometimes projects may seem chaotic, they may seem stormy, but the even keel person is the project manager at all times. and you can't get caught up in your title. You can't get caught up with the letters behind your name. You can't get caught up with all of the trappings that come with being the project manager in inverted commas. You know, you got to have high emotional intelligence and realize that the project, its objectives, those things are always first. Everything else is secondary.
Oh yeah, you're singing my song. And Omar also said in the chat, people management and empathy, which is a big part of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Good, so these are some great ones coming forward. Last but not least.
Well, my biggest challenge is always carefully monitoring my WIP limits. Now, let me explain what that means for those who said I'm throwing around these terminologies. WIP means your work in progress. And this doesn't apply just to project managers. This applies to mothers, you know, anybody. Know what you can take on and what is your work in progress limits. You have to set limits, and you have to be careful of your mental and physical health in carrying out your task. You cannot take on more than you can handle. You have to learn how to say no. And that's my challenge. I try to be everything to everyone. And then when I have burnout, I realize, hold on, no, I can't survive this way. So knowing your WIP limits, you know, in Kanban, there's something called a pool of work. And you have your throughputs, your tunnels that your work has to go through. And you need to know how much you could take on in each segment of your life. If you feel as though you only could take on 5 elements in personal, you cannot take on a 6th element until those 5 elements have been resolved. And that goes with project management. Do not take on more than you can handle, because you will not be an effective leader. And we all want to be effective leaders, and we cannot be effective if we're not healthy mentally or physically. So that's my biggest challenge. And that's what I would encourage everyone else to be cognizant of as you go on in your daily lives. Know your limits and learn how to say no. My daughter says, I know how to say no because I tell her to her all the time. But anyway, that's another story. The most important characteristic for me, like John Michael said, and I echo that, is emotional intelligence. When you're working with a team that has empathy, not sympathy, empathy, they're empathetic towards you as a human being and do not consider you as just a worker. You're more than just a number or a tagline. You're a person that has feelings, and you're a person that has emotions, and you're a person that has a life outside of a project. So there are things that are going to come up that's going to affect you, and it's going to affect your team. But if you have a working agreement from the onset of starting a project, and your team knows that, okay, these are what are my expectations, that's another tool that you can use to make sure that your projects function efficiently and effectively. So working agreements are important, but also having empathy. Even though a person may have agreed to come on to every meeting, some meetings they may not show. It may be a personal issue. So don't hold them hard and fast and say, oh, well, you promised you were going to be here. Things happen, life happens. We all have challenges. So yes, we want to live up to our commitments, but we want to be cognizant that people have stuff that happens in their lives. You know, they have debts, they have illness, and life will go on. Projects can be delayed, but a life will never be replaced. And so we have to value a person over anything else. And John Michael said it, have an emotional intelligence and empathy towards your team, and know that they are human and you are human. So that's my characteristic.
And you just got 500 cool points from HR. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Wasn't this an amazing conversation tonight? If you didn't enjoy this, you don't have a pulse. That's all I could say. This was amazing. Thank you so much to all of you. We want to draw your attention to the survey that was dropped into the chat. And I hope that you have completed that survey so that we can get the feedback. And look here. Oh, it is prize time. It is prize time.
So if you are here, you are eligible. I am going to spin this wheel.
Wow, and if you Catherine already won.
No, that's where I was messing with this all day, right? That's just what happens where it stopped. So I'm going to spin this wheel. And if you are here, you are winning a prize. We have 2 drawings. Marquin Black, lucky winner number 1. You have won a $25 voucher to Domino's Pizza. Lucky winner number 2. Omar has won a $25 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to our winners.
Thank you for that, Andrea. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna give up my prize so you can choose and give it to someone else from the team or from the people who are here.
Ruth say spin again. Okay, well, we'll donate your prize to a team member who we feel has really contributed a lot recently. So that'll be an incentive. So Simmone can close us out.
Awesome. Well, just before we close, I want to give a shameless plug for the next meetup, simply because I am going to be speaking. So that is,
no, Simmone, you're speaking after the following meetup. The next meetup is Ricardo Clark. Yes.
That's right. Yes, October. Yes. So I'm October 14th. So when is the next one?
That will be 2 weeks from now, the 23rd of September with Coach Ricardo Miller.
That's it. Oh, and Ricardo is good. Y'all are going to enjoy that. Ricardo is really dynamic. Very, very good. And I will be coming on the 14th of October, talking about the top mistakes that leaders make. And I am excited about that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here tonight. I think this was just amazing. I learned a lot. I'm really interested in everything that's going on and perhaps venturing into project management. Who knows? Who knows? Why not add another few letters, right?
I know, right?
To the alphabet soup.
Dot, 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 dot. Keep the dots.
Absolutely. And so once again to our panelists, Sophia Walker, John Michael Clark, Andrea Pratt-Smith, we thank you so much for sharing your expertise. For all of the people behind the scenes, Jacquie Rolle, Omar Gonzalez, for making things run so smoothly behind the scenes. We appreciate you and all of you that came tonight to be a part of this very special event. We appreciate you and thank you very much on behalf of BPMC. Thank you and see you at the next meetup.
Okay.